Alright, today I have my Duncan with me and a nice stack of books to talk about. I wanted to film an October wrap-up for the past few days. I haven't gotten to it, and now it is almost the middle of November and I feel like a little late for an October wrap-up. I'm still going to do one, but this is just going to be like a collection of books that I have read recently, I am reading, and I plan on reading. Today we have an iced coffee from Dunkin'. This is half decaf because for whatever reason when I drink Dunkin' iced coffee, I feel like I'm going to pass away later in the day. So I got half decaf thinking maybe it's the caffeine. It also could be the fact that I'm pretty sure that half of the time Dunkin' uses sewage water instead of coffee. This is half decaf with 3 caramel swirls and oat milk. If you are new here, my name's Emily. This is a very relaxed channel about books. I'm hoping to post more consistently in the coming weeks, so stick around if you're someone who likes to read or you're trying to get into reading. This is the channel for you. I'm thinking about doing a video in the future where I talk about reading for beginners, so books that can get you into romance, get you into fantasy, classics, all stuff like that. So let me know if you like that idea. Stick around if you do. Let's get started. Okay, so first I'm going to go over the physical books that I read in October. Let's start with this top one. This is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm going to read you the description because I'm awful at giving summaries. Galaxy Alex Stern is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Raised in the Los Angeles hinterlands by a hippie mom, Alex dropped out of school early and into a world of shady drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and much, much worse. In fact, by age 20, she is the sole survivor of a horrific, unsolved multiple homicide. Some might say she's thrown her life away, but at her hospital bedside, Alex is offered a second chance to attend one of the world's most prestigious universities on a full ride. What's the catch and why her? Still searching for answers, Alex arrives in New Haven tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. Their 8 windowless tombs are the well-known haunts of the rich and powerful, from high-ranking politicos to Wall Street's biggest players. But their occult activities are more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living. This is a very popular dark academia fantasy novel. If you have never heard of Leigh Bardugo, she has also written the Shadow and Bone series, which is absolutely incredible. That is what got me into fantasy. I highly recommend that. It's a much easier read than this. This is a bit more of a difficult read. I wouldn't say it's a hard read, but it takes some time to get into it because there's a lot of info dumping at the beginning, because you have to understand the way that these secret societies work and the processes of everything. So there's a bit of an info dump, but it's worth it. The main character, Alex, is such a good main character, but it's very interesting to read about. There's a trigger warning for SA, so be aware of that. I believe the first time it happens is in chapter 7, so that's important to know. It's really good if you are someone who is into the occult, secret societies, Leigh Bardugo as an author. You're gonna love this. This was beautifully written, and once I hit about halfway through the book and the action really started to pick up, I was hooked. It definitely took me a little bit to get hooked, but I just knew it was so good. I've heard so many great reviews, so I was I'm just gonna keep chugging through, and I'm glad I did because I really like this. There's also a second book coming out soon, so this is a 4-star for me. The next physical copy book that I read is Family of Liars. I cannot get this sticker off for the life of me, so I'm really sorry. This is Family of Liars by Lockhart. This is the prequel to We Were Liars. If you've never read We Were Liars, please read it. I know it gets a lot of mixed reviews. I loved it. I thought it was so good. The twist is incredible, and you're just it's just insane. Alright, let me just read you this. The Sinclairs never reveal their secrets until now. Welcome to the Sinclair family. People see us as extraordinary, tragic, beautiful. You may think you know all about us, but the truth is, you don't know the half of it. We do not crumble even when our loves betray us. We do not falter even when we lose one of our own. We do not break even when there's blood on the sand. Perhaps that is all you need to know. except that we were always liars. Discover how our story ends. This is a phenomenal, I want to say like kind of historical fiction because it takes place a couple decades back. It's also like a family fiction, like a domestic fiction, and it just kind of follows this very complex life of the Sinclairs, who live on this private island. They own this island, they are extremely rich, and they are the type of family, the mother and father are the type who want the family to come off as perfect. The story is told from one of the daughters of the parents' point of view. She's actually the mother in the first book, because this is the prequel, so this comes before. It's her reflecting on her childhood. And there's just so much crazy shit that happens on this island with this family. She is, I want to say, like somewhere between like 15 and 18 or something. There are a group of boys who come to stay on the island who are friends with her cousin. There's a romance there, there's drama there, there's death, there's grief, there's loss, there's lies, deceit, there's everything. Like seriously, there's everything you could ask for in like a domestic thriller mystery novel. If you're into like very complex, very effed up families, you're gonna love this. Alright, and the last physical copy that I've read this month is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. After her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. A residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill seems like the perfect escape, until Bree witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus, a flying demon feeding on human energies, a secret society of so-called Legendborn students who hunt the creatures down, and a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. The mage's failure reveals Bree's own unique magic and a buried memory with a hidden connection. The night her mother died, another Merlin was at the hospital. Now that Bree knows there's more to her mother's death than what's on the police report, she'll do whatever it takes to find out the truth, even if that means infiltrating the Legendborn as one of their initiates. She recruits Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn with his own grudge against the group, and their reluctant partnership pulls them deeper into the society's secrets and closer to each other. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and explain that a magical war is coming, Bree has to decide how far she'll go for the truth, and whether she should use her magic to take the society down or join the fight. So this is like sort of a young adult fantasy and sort of a young adult dark academia, because it's taking place with like these secret societies on an old campus. This is such a good book. I gave this 5 stars. So Bree Matthews, the main character, is this 16-year-old girl. She ends up infiltrating the secret society, like the description says, and there is just so much shit that happens. There is a romance that sort of buds, and it's kind of following Bree and her journey to figuring out like who she is, what her connection to these secret societies is, and how she's dealing with her mother's death. It all connects in such a powerful way, and the second book just came out today. This book also addresses race issues, sexuality, gender issues. It's really like, it's such an important read, but it's also such a fun read. Like, I read this so fast and I gave this 5 stars. It was absolutely phenomenal. If you are looking for like a fantasy read that's a little bit easier to read, this is definitely the book for you. It's a YA type of book, so the writing style is a bit simpler. It's a bit easier to follow. There is, of course, a lot of information to take in because it's a fantasy, so you have to keep that in mind. I think it's like always important to remember when you're reading fantasy, you have to get past the info dumps to get to the good stuff, because the info dumps are so important. They're a struggle to get through, but once you get it, God, the book always takes off. So the next ones that I read were on my Kindle. So the first one that I read was Hester by Laurie, Lico, Albanese. This was a retelling of Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, but this is told from the point of view of Hester. And if you've never read a Scarlet Letter, don't worry, I have not either. A Scarlet Letter is the story of a woman named Hester who was kind of ostracized from her community in like the 1800s in Salem because she is pregnant and not married. So this story, Hester, follows the character of Hester. Basically tells the same exact story but from her point of view, and there's so much more to it. She experiences, I forget what it's called, I'll write it in here. She experiences this sensory phenomenon where she sees colors when people speak. it's hereditary. Like her mom, her grandmom, they all had it. And her mom like constantly is telling her when she's growing up, you need to like cover this up because people will say you're a witch. Because witchcraft, like the witch trials were like a century ago, but it's still kind of a thing. Like people will still ostracize you. And it kind of follows not only her story, but her process of coming to terms with that, and like the ups and downs between like hiding it and figuring out whether she can tell people, whether she can trust people. It's like there's romance in it, but it's like a very sad romance, like a very real romance. It's not like your typical romance, but there are like romantic plots in it. If you like witches, feminist stories, retellings, historical fiction, this is the book for you. Phenomenal. I gave it 5 stars. I read it as an ARC as well. And the final digital copy that I read in October was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know, I'm so incredibly late to reading this, and I don't know like what I was waiting for, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. If you're unfamiliar, Daisy Jones and the Six is a like tell all about this rock band in the 60s, maybe the 70s, I forget. I think the 70s. And it's told in like an interview format, which took me like a chapter to get behind, and then I loved it. Like I absolutely adored it, and I want every book I read to be in that format. And it tells the story of the band The Six, which is a group of 6 people, and the solo performer Daisy Jones, and it tells the story of how they come together, how they work together, and ultimately how the band falls apart. It's so good. There are so many like subplots with each character because it goes through each like member of the band and Daisy, and there is just so many moving parts. There's so much drama, so much like there's just so much. Like it feels so real. It feels truly what like Fleetwood Mac. Like it feels like you're reading a tell-all from the members of Fleetwood Mac. It was just like so interesting, and I could not put it down. I think I read it in like 2 days, which is pretty good for me. I'm kind of a slow reader these days, but I gave that 5 stars. If you like fiction, if you have read anything from Taylor Jenkins Reid, you'll like it. Okay, my phone is like very quickly dying, so I'm going to try to get through this next part semi-fast. The next book that I started in October and I have not finished yet is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I am like 2/3 of the way through. I like this book. It took me way too long to start liking it though, and by the time I started liking it, I just like started reading other books that I was more interested in, so I haven't touched it. I'm not going to read you this description because truthfully I hate this description. I don't think it like gives you any idea of what the book's about, but it's about this school for magic for high schoolers, I believe, and they come from all over the world. The main character is this like loner girl. She has like no friends there. She doesn't belong to like an enclave, which is like a group of people who practice magic together outside of the school. So like there's like a New York enclave, a London, whatever, all over the world. She doesn't belong to one. Her mom never joined one, so she's kind of like an outcast. And in order to graduate, you kind of need to be a part of one because like graduation involves like fighting off these evil beings, and you have to like have alliances and be a part of a group to get out of there alive, or you're just not going to make it. This is her story. It's told from her point of view. It's very rambly, and she is like very self-destructive. Like she ruins everything for herself. And one of like the most talented students at the school, his name is Orion Lake, she like sort of forms an alliance with him because he saves her life so many times, but she like hates him for saving her life because that's just the kind of person she is. But they sort of form an alliance, and the story pretty much follows their relationship and how it affects her time like at the school. It's good. It's just too rambly for me. Like it takes like the chapters, like one thing happens and it takes like 40 pages for like this tiny event to happen, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I can't do this every chapter. So like it's just like a lot. If you like a very rambly main character in first person point of view, you'll like it. I'm not a huge fan. Now I am currently reading an arc for Clytemnestra by Costnaza Casati. This, I'll read you the description, which you're gonna cry if you like. Just listen. Madeline Miller's Cersei meets Cersei Lannister in a stunning debut following Clytemnestra, the most notorious heroine of the ancient world, and the events that forged her into the legendary queen. As for queens, they are either hated or forgotten. She already knows which option suits her best. You were born to a king, but you marry a tyrant. You stand by helplessly as he sacrifices your child to placate the gods. You watch him wage war on a foreign shore, and you comfort yourself with violent thoughts of your own, because this was not the first offense against you. This was not the life you ever deserved, and will not be your undoing. Slowly you plot, but when your husband returns in triumph, you become a woman with a choice. Acceptance or vengeance, infamy follows both. So, you bide your time and force the gods' hands in the game of retribution, for you understood something long ago that the others never did. If power isn't given to you, you have to take it for yourself. A blazing novel set in the world of ancient Greece for fans of Jennifer Saint and Natalie Haynes. This is a thrilling tale of power and prophecies, of hatred, love, and of an unforgettable queen who fiercely dealt out death to those who wronged her. I am a little more than 50% of the way through, and I love it. I loved Circe. If you loved Circe by Madeline Miller, you will adore this book. If you're a fan of like Greek mythology, any of that, you will love this book. The way it's written is so beautiful, but not in a way where it's like too prosy and it's hard to follow. It's just incredible storytelling. Like, that's the only thing I can even say. Like, it's just phenomenal storytelling. I am going to be reading Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. Oops, I didn't realize my coffee was in the camera this whole time, sorry. I will be reading Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, which is the second, like I said earlier, to Legendborn. That just came out today. I will be reading that this month, so stay tuned for reviews on Clytemnestra, Bloodmarked, and A Deadly Education. Oh, I'm also listening to the audiobook of The Candid Life of Meena Dave by Namrata Patel, I believe. I can't really see it. There's like a logo covering her name. I believe it's Namrata Patel. I'm only like 10% of the way through, but it's really good. It's about this girl who inherits this apartment building in Boston and has no idea why she inherits it. This 65-year-old woman dies and leaves it to her, and she has no idea why she inherited it. There's like a hot neighbor. You know, it's common. So I listened to that while I went on my walk this morning, and I'll probably do that again tomorrow. That is all of my books from October. That is everything I'm reading right now and what I will be reading this month. Stick around if you liked this. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever you feel like doing, or do none of that if you don't want to. Yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and bye.